Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, feeling a heaviness you can't quite name? The day might have gone well by all appearances. You finished your tasks, met your deadlines, smiled when you were supposed to. And yet, somewhere beneath the surface, something tugs at your heart, an invisible weight, a silent question that haunts so many of us. Is this all there is? We live in a world of endless motion. Constant notifications, the race for promotions, likes, follows, achievements. Every moment packed, every silence filled. And in chasing what we think is a better, fuller life, we slowly forget to actually live. Not long ago, a friend of mine confessed something that struck me. She said, "I don't even remember what peace feels like. I'm always either stressed, distracted, or numb. It's like I'm surviving, not living." And the truth is, she isn't alone. Maybe you felt it too, that subtle emptiness, that quiet ache. But what if I told you there's another way? A way of moving through this life not as a constant race, but as a sacred path. A way of turning the most ordinary, mundane moments into profound practice. Not by escaping to a mountaintop monastery, or giving up your job, or renouncing your relationships, but by waking up right here, right now, within the life you already have. You see, the Buddha never taught us to run away from the world. He showed us how to be in it fully, without being consumed by it. To live as a practitioner isn't to abandon society, but to weave mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom into every breath, every word, every step we take. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to wait for the perfect time to start. You don't need to fix your life first. You begin wherever you are. Because every moment, whether you're washing dishes, replying to emails, or sitting in traffic, can become a doorway to awakening. But why does this matter so much now? Because in a world more connected than ever, people feel lonelier than they've ever been. In a world overflowing with information, we've grown hungry for wisdom. In a time when we measure worth by productivity, we've lost touch with the quiet miracle of simply being alive. And that's what this journey is about, reclaiming your life as a sacred practice, not through grand rituals or complex doctrines, but through the art of being fully here. I remember a story about a monk who asked his teacher, "Master, what is enlightenment?" The old teacher smiled and replied, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." At first, it seems almost insultingly simple, but beneath those words lies a profound truth. Most of us eat while thinking of work, sleep while worrying about tomorrow, walk while lost in yesterday. We're everywhere but here. To live like a practitioner is to eat when you eat, to sleep when you sleep, to speak when you speak, and to listen, really listen. To notice your heartbeat, the sound of the wind in the trees, the warmth of a cup of tea in your hands. It sounds simple, but it changes everything. Because the invisible weight we carry, it's not the deadlines or the bills or the opinions of others. It's the way we resist the present moment. The way we tell ourselves, "I'll be happy when, after this project, once I get that promotion, if only they understood me." It's our refusal to rest in the one place peace has always lived, right here. So what does it mean to live like a practitioner in daily life? It means bringing sacred attention to the ordinary, turning daily frustrations into lessons in patience, using difficult people as mirrors for your own growth, transforming chores into acts of devotion. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about choosing to wake up again and again, no matter how many times you've drifted. And you know what? The world desperately needs more people like you. People willing to walk through the noise without losing themselves. People who anchor their lives in wisdom and compassion, not the shifting tides of trends and opinion. So if you felt that quiet ache, that invisible weight, if you've ever whispered to yourself, there has to be more than this, you're not alone, and you're in exactly the right place, because what follows isn't just theory, it's a path, a way to reclaim your days from autopilot, a guide to weaving ancient wisdom into the fabric of your modern life. Not someday, not after you fix everything, but right here in this very breath. There's a quiet revolution waiting to happen inside you, and it starts now. Somewhere deep within us, there's a longing, a quiet yearning not just to exist, but to understand what it truly means to live. And yet, most people wander through life chasing shadows, fleeting pleasures, temporary victories, moments of applause that vanish as quickly as they arrive. We live so fast, we forget to ask, who am I beneath all this? What am I here for? And this is where the path of a practitioner begins. But let's be clear, a practitioner isn't someone who has it all figured out. It isn't a title reserved for monks in saffron robes or sages in mountain caves. It's not about having the perfect daily routine or a flawless meditation practice. A practitioner is anyone who chooses, in each moment, to meet life with awareness, to turn the simple, often overlooked moments of the day into opportunities for awakening. It's not about escaping to some distant nirvana. It's about coming home, back to the stillness already within you. I remember a Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. On the surface, nothing changes. But within you, everything does. You see, being a practitioner isn't about changing the scenery. It's about changing the way you see, the way you show up to your life as it is. It's waking up in the morning and instead of rushing through a checklist, pausing for a breath, noticing the sunlight filtering through the window, feeling your feet touch the floor, savoring the warmth of the first sip of tea or coffee. These aren't meaningless moments, they're sacred. But how often do we miss them? How often do we let days blur into weeks, weeks into years, all while telling ourselves, later, I'll be more present later? A practitioner knows. Later is an illusion. There's only this breath, only this step, only this word spoken with care or not at all. And when you live this way, something shifts. Anger becomes a teacher. Frustration turns into a chance to practice patience. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to truly listen, not just wait for your turn to speak. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more conscious ones. People who can hold silence without fear. People who move through conflict without adding to it. People who aren't ruled by the tides of praise and blame, but who remain steady, rooted like ancient trees. To be a practitioner is to live with intention. To ask yourself not once but again and again, what am I practicing right now? Are you practicing impatience? Are you practicing distraction? Or are you practicing kindness, presence, gratitude? The truth is, we're always practicing something. The question is what? I once met a teacher who said, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your attention. At first, I didn't fully grasp it, but over time, it revealed itself. When you pay attention, real, steady, compassionate attention, even to a single moment, it opens like a flower. Colors deepen. Sounds become crisp. The heartbeat of life, often drowned by noise, becomes unmistakable. That's the practice. It's not about living without mistakes. You'll lose your temper, you'll forget. You'll fall back into old habits, but a practitioner learns to start again, 1,000 times a day if needed. And in those small, often unnoticed moments of starting again, your entire life is remade. You begin to realize that wisdom isn't found in ancient texts alone, but in the way you respond when someone cuts you off in traffic, in the tenderness you offer yourself when you stumble, in the quiet courage of showing up for your own heart when it's broken and weary. You discover that the real temple isn't somewhere far away. It's here, within the space of your chest, rising and falling with each breath. And your practice, it's not confined to the cushion or the altar or the chanting hall. It's in the way you wash dishes, the way you answer a phone call, the way you say goodnight. No one else may notice, but your spirit does. This is how we heal the invisible weight we spoke of before, not by chasing something outside of ourselves, but by honoring the life unfolding right here in this very moment. So what does it mean to be a practitioner? It means to live awake, to carry your practice not like a badge, but like a quiet warmth in your chest. To remember, not in grand, dramatic moments, but in the humble, ordinary ones, what it is to be fully alive. And if you forget, good, that's the perfect place to begin again. In the gentle flow of this path, the next question naturally rises. How do we actually practice, moment by moment, within the rush and clatter of modern life? Is it possible to turn stress into mindfulness, ordinary chores into sacred rituals? Let's step into that space together. It's a quiet truth often overlooked. The sacred isn't something rare. It's not locked away in temples or hidden atop misty mountains. It's right here, woven into the fabric of the ordinary. The problem is, we don't notice. We live most of our days in a kind of waking sleep, rushing from one task to another, lost in thought, drowning in distraction, checking our phones while half listening to a friend, eating while scrolling, breathing without awareness. And the price of this constant busyness isn't just exhaustion. It's disconnection from ourselves, from each other, and from the quiet beauty of being alive. But what if the path back wasn't complicated? What if the most profound spiritual practice wasn't about doing more, but about being more present, right where you are? This is the heart of mindfulness, not a trendy concept, not a productivity hack, but a way of moving through life so awake, so attuned that even the smallest acts shimmer with meaning. Imagine this. You wake up in the morning and instead of grabbing your phone, you take one deep breath. You feel the rise of your chest, the cool air entering your nose, the warmth of the bed beneath you, nothing dramatic, and yet everything changes, because for that moment you're fully here, alive to your own life. This is how mindfulness turns the ordinary into sacred practice. It isn't reserved for silent retreats or long hours on a cushion. It's found in how you wash your hands, how you sip your tea, how you listen not to respond but to understand. When you live this way, time slows, not in a forced, artificial sense, but because your attention deepens. The fragrance of rain on dry earth, the sound of wind moving through leaves, the face of a loved one etched with stories lit by kindness. These moments aren't trivial. They are life itself. There's a Zen story about a student who asked his master, "What is the essence of the way?" The master replied, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." It seems so simple it almost feels like a joke, but hidden within is a profound teaching. Most of us don't eat when we eat. We worry, we plan, we replay old conversations. We barely taste the food. And so we miss it. Not just the flavor, but the miracle of being alive, of nourishment entering a body that breathes, feels, loves. A practitioner makes each meal a meditation, each step a prayer, each word a seed. And this is not about perfection. It's about returning again and again to presence. When you wash the dishes, don't rush to finish. Feel the warmth of the water. Notice the smooth surface of the plate. Hear the sound of bubbles breaking. It isn't the task that matters, it's the quality of your attention. In those moments, the mind grows quiet, the heart softens, and suddenly a chore becomes a ritual. A drive through traffic becomes a chance to practice patience. A difficult conversation becomes a field for compassion. Even your own irritation can become a doorway to understanding. This is how mindfulness turns life into practice. Not by adding extra hours to your day, but by inhabiting the hours you already have more fully. And here's the secret most people overlook. The ordinary is sacred because it's ordinary, because it's fleeting, because no two moments are ever the same. Today's sunrise will never come again. This breath will never repeat itself. This exact laugh with these people at this time is unrepeatable. And to live without noticing is to lose what's most precious. A practitioner doesn't seek to control life, but to meet it as it is. To bow inwardly to the beauty and the heartbreak, the joy and the grief, holding them both with tenderness. And the more you practice this, not as a technique, but as a way of being, the more you begin to realize. You don't have to go searching for sacredness. It's right here, in your morning tea, in the sound of your child's footsteps, in the hush before sleep. You just have to notice, and when you do, a strange, beautiful thing happens. Life, no matter how messy, begins to shimmer, not because it's perfect, but because you're finally awake within it. And as you deepen this way of living, a new question naturally emerges. How do we face our difficulties, our pain, and our restless emotions without running away? Because mindfulness isn't about escaping discomfort. It's about meeting it. So let's step gently into that truth next. There's a quiet ache in the world right now. You can feel it when you scroll through the news, when you overhear conversations in coffee shops, when you watch people walk past each other, heads down, eyes glazed, hearts armored. So much noise, so many words, and yet so little understanding. In ancient Buddhist teachings, there's a timeless instruction: practice compassion, speak with right speech. Simple words. But in a world built on rapid opinions, digital arguments, and casual cruelty, it might be the most radical thing we can do. You see, compassion isn't pity. It's not looking down on someone's pain from a safe distance. True compassion is the courageous act of letting another person's suffering touch your heart without flinching. It's choosing to see the humanity behind someone's anger, the fear beneath their cruelty, the sorrow behind their indifference. And it begins always with presence. When you truly see someone not as a role or a label or a headline, but as a breathing, aching, hoping human being, something softens. The defensive walls crack just a little. And where judgment once stood, compassion quietly steps in. But here's where it gets real. It's easy to be compassionate to those we like. To the kind, the gentle, the ones who agree with us. The real practice is in the messy moments. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when a coworker snaps at you, when a stranger leaves a cruel comment online. In those moments, the ego wants to fight, to defend, to win. But the practitioner takes a breath and remembers they suffer too. Maybe it doesn't excuse their behavior, but it explains it. The angry customer is carrying grief you can't see. The rude stranger just lost someone they loved. The online troll is lonely in a room that's been quiet for days. This doesn't mean you have to accept harm. It means you choose to respond, not react. To meet aggression with steady dignity. To meet cruelty with clarity and, where possible, kindness. And nowhere is this more crucial than in how we use our words. Buddha taught that right speech is one of the pillars of the Eightfold Path. But what does it mean here, now, in a world where words can travel the globe in seconds? It means we speak with honesty, but not brutality. We tell the truth, but with the intention to heal, not to harm. It means we avoid idle gossip, those tempting, petty conversations that leave a bitter aftertaste. It means we don't weaponize words in moments of anger, knowing they'll echo long after we've forgotten them. And perhaps most importantly, it means we practice silence, not the cold, punishing kind, but the mindful, intentional quiet that listens, that makes space, that chooses presence over performance. In the modern world, this might look like pausing before hitting send. It might mean walking away from a heated comment thread. It might mean asking yourself before you speak, is this kind? Is this true? Is this necessary? If it isn't, let it go. Because words are seeds. Once spoken, they grow in someone's mind, in someone's heart. And a practitioner chooses carefully what they plant. Even a small kindness, spoken sincerely, can ripple through a life in ways you'll never see. A gentle word to a stranger, a quiet thank you, an honest I see you, I hear you. These are sacred acts. And yet compassion isn't only for others. It must begin with yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot offer tenderness to the world if your own inner voice is cruel. So pay attention to how you speak to yourself in the quiet moments, when you fail, when you fall short, when you're alone with your thoughts. Is your inner voice a tyrant? Or a friend? A practitioner notices the harshness and softens it, because the way you speak to yourself shapes the way you move through the world. And the way you move through the world shapes the world itself. There's a beautiful teaching in Buddhism. Hurt people, healed people, heal people. So be a healer, not because the world always deserves it, but because you do. Because when you live this way, with compassion, with mindful speech, with kindness even in conflict, you become a quiet revolution. An antidote to the noise, a refuge in a restless world. And slowly, one breath, one word, one gentle act at a time, you change the story. And as we move forward, let's explore something deeper still. If compassion shapes how we treat others, how do we meet our own restless hearts, our own struggles, our constant craving for something else? That restless voice whispering, "You'll be happy when." Let's walk into that next. Let's be honest about something. Spiritual practice isn't about floating through life untouched by pain. It's not about pretending we're above anger, fear, jealousy, or grief. No, to be a practitioner is to feel it all. Because we're not here to bypass our humanity, we're here to meet it. And in this messy, beautiful, often overwhelming world, difficult emotions will visit, anger will flare, sadness will weigh heavy, anxiety will tighten its grip, and loneliness, that old ghost, will sometimes sit beside us in the quiet hours of night. The question isn't if these emotions will come. The question is, how will you greet them? Most of us were taught to resist, to numb, distract, or suppress. We reach for a screen, a drink, a task, anything to escape the discomfort. But what if, instead of running, we turn toward it? Buddha taught that suffering isn't in the emotion itself, but in our resistance to it. Like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push, the more violently it surfaces. A practitioner learns to let the ball rise. When anger shows up, you don't deny it. You notice it. You name it. Ah, anger is here. And in that simple, honest acknowledgement, something softens. The emotion doesn't own you. You become the observer, not the hostage. It's like watching a storm through a window rather than standing lost in the rain. This isn't easy. Emotions are tricky. They disguise themselves, they lie to us, they demand reaction. But mindfulness gives us space. A single, sacred pause between feeling and action. And in that pause, you regain your power. When sadness visits, you don't drown, you sit beside it. You let it speak. You let it be a teacher, not an enemy. Sometimes it teaches you what matters. Sometimes it reminds you to slow down. Sometimes it simply asks you to grieve, to honor the weight of being alive in a fragile, impermanent world. The same with jealousy. Not a shameful flaw, but a signal. A light shining on where your heart feels hungry, unseen, unloved. And fear, that ancient survival instinct. Instead of letting it rule you, you greet it like an old acquaintance. Ah, you again. What are you trying to protect? Every difficult emotion carries wisdom, if you're willing to listen. But here's the secret. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to make them pretty or reasonable or spiritual. You simply need to be present with them. And when you do, when you breathe through the rage, the ache, the restless hunger, you realize something profound. You are not your emotions. You are the space they move through. A practitioner remembers this. They watch their anger rise, crest, and fall like a wave. They feel sorrow wash over them, knowing it too will recede. They meet joy with the same wisdom, aware it too is fleeting. This is freedom, not the absence of emotion, but the absence of attachment to it. It means you can feel deeply without drowning. You can hurt without becoming bitter. You can mourn without losing yourself. And in those moments, you realize how many people are suffering quietly under the weight of their unspoken pain. It makes you gentler with others. It softens your judgments. It deepens your compassion. Because you've walked through your own storm, and you know what it takes to keep walking. And here's a beautiful thing about difficult emotions. They pass, always. No matter how endless the night feels, morning comes. So you learn to ride the wave, to trust the process, to stay kind with yourself in the mess. And one day, without realizing it, you notice the anger fades faster. The sadness feels less sharp. The anxiety no longer defines your day, not because you've transcended emotion, but because you've befriended it. And in befriending it, you've befriended yourself. As we walk deeper into this path, it raises a powerful question. If emotions are impermanent and thoughts are impermanent, then what remains? What is it within us that witnesses, that observes, that endures? In the next chapter, we'll quietly lean into that mystery. We'll explore the art of letting go, not as an act of detachment, but as the path to profound peace. You know, most people think enlightenment arrives in some grand, cinematic moment. a flash of blinding light, a voice from the heavens, the world freezing in place as you transcend ordinary existence. But those who truly walk this path, they'll tell you something else. Awakening isn't a lightning strike. It's a quiet, persistent unfolding. It happens in the tiny, seemingly insignificant moments, the ones nobody applauds, nobody posts about, nobody notices but you. It happens when you catch yourself about to complain and instead you stay silent. It happens when you feel the pull to judge and choose compassion. When you wake before dawn just to sit in stillness while the rest of the world sleeps. It happens when you make tea, when you wash the dishes, when you breathe through frustration in a traffic jam. Tiny acts, minute decisions, small daily challenges. They might seem trivial, but they're not. They are the bricks in the foundation of your awakening. Because here's a truth nobody wants to hear. Consistency beats intensity. Anyone can have a powerful, emotional breakthrough on a meditation retreat or after a crisis. Anyone can feel wise and clear in moments of peace. But a practitioner builds their life on the ordinary days, when it's inconvenient, when no one's watching, when your mind is restless and the world is loud and your patience is paper-thin. That's when the real practice lives. Every day offers small challenges designed for your growth, not as punishments but as invitations. The person who cuts you off in traffic, a teacher. The coworker who triggers your anger, a mirror. The ache in your body, the boredom in your routine, the irritation at slow internet, all sacred opportunities. We usually ignore them, wish them away, or worse, blame them for our suffering. But a practitioner sees these moments for what they are, tiny gates to freedom. And the more you walk through them, the stronger your practice becomes. Think of it like building muscle. You don't grow stronger by lifting something once. You grow by lifting consistently, even when you don't feel like it. Even when the weight feels light or when it feels impossibly heavy. The same is true for inner discipline. Every time you choose mindfulness over reaction, you build resilience. Every time you choose kindness over sarcasm, you soften your ego. Every time you return to your breath in the middle of chaos, you remember who you really are. It compounds, a little every day, and one day you realize the things that used to unravel you don't anymore. The old triggers lose their grip. The stormy emotions pass faster. The anxious thoughts don't consume you like before. Not because life got easier, but because you got sturdier. And it didn't happen through a dramatic spiritual awakening. It happened because you stayed. You showed up, in small, invisible, relentless ways. This is how awakening works. Not through escape, but through intimacy with life itself. Through the courage to meet boredom, fear, anger, and joy with equal presence. To see the divine not just in temples or mountaintops, but in emails, chores, and conversations with difficult people. Every small act matters. A practitioner doesn't wait for ideal conditions. They practice in the mess, in the noise, in the unfiltered, unsanitized, unpredictable flow of everyday existence. And slowly, those small, daily challenges become the path itself. The irony is, you might not even notice the transformation while it's happening. But one evening, you'll find yourself sitting in quiet, watching the sun sink low. And you'll realize your heart feels lighter, your breath easier, your spirit unburdened, and you'll know the practice worked. It always works, not in spectacular bursts, but in steady, faithful devotion to this moment and then the next. Now, as we near the end of our journey together, there's one last truth to uncover. Not a technique, not a strategy, but a perspective that changes how you see your entire life. Because once you understand this, you'll realize you've been searching for what you already carry within. And in our final chapter, we'll gently return home to that remembering. And now here we are, not at the end, but at a doorway, because the truth is there's no final destination on this path, no trophy waiting, no grand finish line where you suddenly arrive flawless and untouchable. What you've begun here is a way of being, a relationship with life itself. And perhaps now you see, it was never about escaping the world or reaching some mystical state beyond the clouds. It was about waking up to this exact moment. This sip of tea, this breath in your chest, this ache in your heart, this kindness you offer, this choice you make. Every moment is a thread. And the way you weave them with mindfulness, with compassion, with courage, becomes the fabric of your life. And that fabric becomes your practice. You realize the sacred isn't separate from the ordinary. Your work, your family, your struggles, your tiny joys, they're all part of it. That's the secret nobody tells you when you first set out seeking wisdom. You already have everything you've been chasing. Awakening isn't something you attain. It's something you remember. You were born with clarity, born with tenderness, born with the ability to meet life moment by moment without needing to grasp or push away. And now, you're simply learning to live that way again. And yes, it will be messy, you'll forget, you'll stumble, you'll react. You'll feel lost sometimes, that's part of it. But each time you remember, each time you return to yourself, to this breath, to this awareness, you rebuild the path beneath your feet. And over time, you realize something extraordinary. It's not the big, dramatic moments that change your life. It's the small, consistent acts of presence. Pausing before you speak, choosing gentleness over sarcasm, offering a silent blessing to the stranger who angers you, feeling gratitude for warm sunlight on your skin. Tiny things, but tiny things done consistently shape everything. Because here's what happens when you live this way: you suffer less. Not because life stops being difficult, but because you stop adding layers of resistance, judgment, and fear to every experience. You become less reactive. You listen more deeply. You love more fully. You forgive more easily. And the world, it doesn't necessarily change, but your relationship to it does. And that, my friend, changes everything. You begin to move through your days not as a victim of circumstances, but as a conscious participant in this strange, beautiful, unpredictable existence. And in doing so, you become a light, not a blinding, ego-driven spotlight, but a steady, gentle glow. People around you will feel it. Some won't know why. Some won't even notice it consciously. But they'll sense the way you pause before reacting, the calm you bring into a chaotic room, the way you listen with your whole presence, the quiet strength in your ordinary acts of kindness. And without needing to preach or convince or claim authority, you'll help others remember their own light too. That's how it spreads. Not through sermons, not through debates, but through the undeniable peace of a life lived awake. So wherever you are now, whatever your story has been up to this point, know this: the path isn't ahead of you. It's right here, under your feet, in your hands, in your heart. And the next step is simple: stay. Stay with this moment, this breath, this experience, and then the next, and trust that in doing so, everything will unfold exactly as it's meant to. Thank you for walking this part of the path with me. Now, it's yours to carry.